inshallah. May the peace, mercy, and blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, of Almighty God, be on all of you. I want to thank all of you guys for your patience. The speaker was running a little bit late. Traffic is a mess at this time. But alhamdulillah, he made it. And so, without any further ado, he will speak to you as soon as he gets a drink. He needs to catch his breath. We ran here. So, in the meantime, you guys can just look at me saying nothing. Yeah, please drink that. No. But inshallah, we have a very interesting topic for you guys today. The brother, today is his first speech actually, and he's doing a whole series now until Sunday when he leaves inshallah. And he's a very world-renowned speaker, mashallah. So you guys, he spoke 2 years ago here at UCR, and we're very honored to have him back. So inshallah, you guys give him your undivided attention, and we'll have questions at the end of his talk, inshallah. So we have Brother Hamza join us.
Alhamdulillah wa salatu wa salam ala rasulillah ma ba'd. Brothers and sisters and friends, Assalamu alaikum. I'm finished. Wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Everyone okay? Good. I'm a little bit jet lagged, so apologies if I look tired, but I just had some sugar. So inshallah, God willing, it's gonna run through my veins and I'm gonna be energetic for you guys, okay? Let me move this table. Bit of a barrier. Yeah? It's just psychological, you see. Okay, good. Today is a very important topic, okay? The reason it's a very important topic is because the existence of God, the existence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah being the Islamic, Arabic, Quranic term for the one true God. His existence provides the entire basis for religious tradition. The Christian tradition, the Jewish tradition, and the Islamic tradition. And if it does provide the basis for this way of life or this worldview, then it's very important that we don't just take this for granted, and it's very important that we don't accept it on a basis of blind faith. Because blind faith can be something very dangerous. Because what does blind faith actually mean? It actually means accepting a doctrine, accepting a set of concepts. This guy's making me laugh. Okay? Accepting a set of doctrines without any reasons. I believe if we look into our Islamic tradition, we would sense that accepting the idea and the concept of God is actually based upon reason, rational thinking, certain logical concepts. And this is not weird or alien to the Quran. The Quran being the book of the Muslims for any non-Muslims amongst you, okay, if they don't know. Because the Quran always agitates us to think. The Quran is a very imposing book. It's a very intrusive book. Some of the ulama, some of the scholars, some of the traditionalist thinkers, they describe this book as a very imposing book. Now this is a negative term. However, in this context it's not, because the Quran seeks to positively engage with the inner dimensions of the human being. His aql, his intellect, and his nafsiyah, his internal disposition, his psychology. Now how does the Quran do this? Well, it asks profound questions. أَوَلَمْ يَتَفَكَّرُوا فِي أَنفُسِهِمْ? Do they not reflect within themselves? So the Quran has this strategy, telling us to think and reflect. And the word يَتَفَكَّرُونَ, for those who reflect, comes from the root word, which actually means you must think very hard about something. Very deep. It's not like being a desert romantic playing with the sand and looking at the stars. It's actually thinking deeply about something. It actually means the thing that you're reflecting upon, you must inquire about its implications. What does it mean to be a human being? What does it mean that there's a beginning to the universe? What does it mean that I have a psychology, I have a consciousness? Thinking very deeply about these things and thinking about the implications of the object of what we're meditating upon. So, if we take this type of approach and we expand it to the whole cosmos, the whole universe, I think we come to some startling conclusions. Everyone with me so far? Good. So when we probe into the universe, I think not only can we conclude God exists, but we can conclude that this God has the attributes of the traditional, classical, Islamic conception of God. And I'm going to use a couple of arguments today. The first argument I call is the beginning of the universe argument. Now, when we look into the universe, we can come to the conclusion that it must have a cause. Now, the reason it must have a cause is because everything that begins to exist, everything that comes into existence in the temporal world, in time, has a cause. And this is what I call premise number one, okay? I'm going to write this down. Okay, so whatever begins to exist, dice or whatever. Yeah. This is the problem when you have Microsoft Word, you see. Let's go check. Okay, whatever begins to exist has, a cause. This is quite undeniable. For example, if we hear, that woke you up. If you hear a small noise in the room, what do? You go, who did that? Where did that come from? Oh, it's this crazy Greek guy. It hit the table. You see? So everything that begins to exist, whether it's a sound, it's a movement, whatever begins to exist has a cause. Okay? Whatever begins to exist has a cause. This is an undeniable premise. Okay? The only counter argument from the atheist tradition, okay, because I'm going to mention some counter arguments so we're empowered to know how to really connect with human beings that adopt an atheist worldview, okay? Because I think it's powerful to do that. If we just take everything for granted and we just say, yeah, preaching to the converted, then we don't really analyze our concepts. But as Muslims, we're thinking human beings, okay? And as thinking human beings, we try to understand the different perspectives on things that we take for granted, or the innate concepts that we really believe to be true. So the only counter-argument to this, does anyone know a counter-argument to this? Go on.
Isn't it like the universe has always been there, so it's always going to be there?
Okay. That's because you're assuming the universe never began to exist, okay? But within the universe, when things begin to exist, they have a cause. What would an atheist say to this? Anyone know? Guess, you can just guess. Let's have a conversation. I don't really give lectures, I like to have a conversation.
Everything's random?
They may say, someone may say something like, well, how do you know it's always, that's kind of crazy. How do you know that it existed before time?
Okay, we're going to get that later. That's a good question. I'm going to hold that, okay? Yeah, no, we're going to get to that later. It doesn't really directly deal with things that begin to exist. We're talking about things within time, okay? Things that begin, they have a cause. Now, the reason you can't really question this is because it's really true. It's not something that's implausible. It's a reasonable statement to say that whatever begins to exist is a cause. Now, you may not know this. The counter-argument to premise number one, let's put counter-arguments here, okay? Okay, counter-argument to premise number one is quantum physics.
Oh, yeah.
I knew you knew it. Okay. And take this to be, who knows what the quantum vacuum is? Everyone heard of the quantum vacuum? Good. It's not that thing that cleans up dust, okay? That's my first joke. One laugh. It's going to be more. It gets better during the whole presentation, okay? So according to physicists, the quantum vacuum, right, they see particles just come into existence out of so-called nothing. So they say, well, this is not true. Statement one is not really true. Because in a quantum vacuum, you have particles emerging from nothing. So therefore, premise number one is not entirely true. How would you deal with this? Sorry?
It's not really a vacuum.
Obviously, it doesn't clean up dust, does it? See? That's it. It's not a vacuum. No, but explain.
I think it's an energetic field that has energy.
This guy's on the board. I like it. What's your name?
Muhammad.
Muhammad. What a beautiful name. Yeah? See, Muhammad is saying that it's not really a vacuum. In essence, he's saying it's not really nothing. It's actually something. Because the vacuum is a sea of fluctuating energy, okay? Big terms, fluctuating. We'll put E for energy, okay? A sea of fluctuating energy. So the particles do come from somewhere. Also, not all physicists, they claim that these particles came from nothing. They have a determinist philosophy, which means actually there was really a cause. Now, so if we come back to our first statement, this is quite reasonable to hold. Now, when we go